Good evening, everybody. My name is Robbie Law. I'm here with this Echo training tonight. I'm very excited. We have Dr. Richard Margil with us today. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, Dr. Richard. I appreciate it, and we're so excited to learn from you tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So as we're getting in, I want to give you just a couple of quick ideas on how to get the most out of our training today and what we're discussing. We're going to be going into cognitive brain function. We're going to talk about chiropractic. We're going to learn something called NIS. A lot of really good topics that we're going to discuss. So for you to get the most out of this, a couple of quick ideas. If you have earbuds to listen in, it's always better when we've got a really good listening environment on a training and webinar like this. We're going to go about 45 to 60 minutes. And during that time, we would love to answer questions that you have. So have your questions ready. There's a question box inside your dashboard where you can go and ask questions. There's also a chat box where we would love to hear from you in the chat box as well. Let us know where you're from. Let us know, some of the good things that you hear from Dr. Margil today. Let us know what are some of the best takeaways that you have. Those are some of the things we love to hear. So as we go through this, there's going to be a lot of content that is shared, and so you will have a replay of this. So as opposed to really being focused on taking notes, I would be focused on Dr. Margil today and some of the action items that you might be able to take. I always think it's wise for us to have action items where we're purposely trying to walk away from a training like this with things that we can do every single day to improve our life. And that's really what the hope is today, that we'll walk away with one or two new ideas, new things that we can utilize in our life to make our day that much better, to improve our health, to improve our wealth, to improve the things that we have in our lives. And that's exactly what we're going to be discussing. So Dr. Margil is going to be discussing how impactful water is inside our systems. And he's going to also discuss some of his main bodies of expertise, which are chiropractic and areas of our brain. And he's also done some very specific studies into biophoton therapy and things that that are so far outside of what I've ever learned, that as I was talking with him the other day and getting prepared for this, he was absolutely blowing my mind with some of the discoveries that he's made. But he has really devoted his life to being able to have an understanding on how to heal others, how to help other people using very powerful modalities. So we're going to be learning those things from him today. And as we do that, really quick, sorry, I'm trying to get my screen a little bit better for you. I've got a couple of slides that as we go through this, that I'll be throwing up here. And as always, whenever we have a training like this, I always have an offer at the end as well, where we're going to be able to give you a discount on Echo products. We've got a cool discount that we're going to be discussing today, but we're really going to be focused on health. I'm going to ask Dr. Margil about body posture and how we can have better posture. One of the things that I often get complimented on is my body posture when I sit. When I stand, however, my wife often tells me I slump over. So I want to talk to Dr. Margil about what I can do to have better posture myself, and we can learn from that. And as we do this, think of some goals for yourself. How can you take what we learn here today into your life, in your own health, inside your home, inside your teachings of the people that are in your network or in your care, like your family? What are you doing to get there? And once again, as we do that, we're going to be learning from Dr. Richard Margil, and he's got such a great understanding. Sorry, I had someone else's background on there for you, but he's got a great understanding of what we can do in our bodies to overcome ailments, to overcome issues, and really to create better habits in our life. And that's what we're going to discuss. So like I mentioned at the very end, I will always have that discount. So stick around to the end and we'll share a great discount for you to be able to get access to some great tools and products here with Echo. So that being said, now that I've kind of set it up, I want to turn the time over to Dr. Margil. And if I could, Dr. Margil, could you give us a background? What got you to the place you're at today? Yesterday, we discussed so much, and I know there's a lot for us to cover, but what got you to the place you're at today? And what are some of the modalities that you have learned along the way to help other people to progress in their life?
Thanks so much, Robbie, for having me. By the way, I don't see a picture. Should I be seeing any images right now?
I can see your picture right now, and then my image, I shrunk down just a little bit, but I've got it kind of next to me. So if anyone else wants to let us know if you can see our videos, I can definitely see them. So
Okay.
feel confident in knowing that your video is working.
Okay, very good. Okay, thanks. Well, welcome everyone. I'm really glad to be here and share with you what I've been passionate about. It's just turning 30 years that I've been in the health field, and I've explored a lot of different ways of helping a body. And it's been interesting because as I started and I got my doctorate in chiropractic 30 years ago, at some point along my career, one of the things that I learned is when people would come in, and if I couldn't help them with chiropractic, I had a choice to make. And my choice is, am I going to refer them out to another practitioner, or am I going to keep learning and find what it is that I need to do to take them to a next level and my own understanding to a next level? And that has been an unbelievable journey for me. One of my greatest assets is that I'm curious, and I really do love to learn. So I've now gotten trained in 5 different fields, alternative fields. I've studied with chiropractors, I've studied with physicists, and I'm going to go into what it is that I do. But the first thing I want to do is actually teach you something that's really important, because most of you are probably sitting down when you're listening to this podcast or this webinar. When you sit, there is one way to sit that's really best for your body. And that is to sit with your hip bones higher than your knees. When you do that, when you sit with your hips higher than your knees, it arches your lower back and it distributes the weight of your torso through the arc of your lumbar spine. You know, in traditional ergonomics, they tell you to sit perpendicular. That's incorrect, because when you sit perpendicular, all of the weight of your body goes into your lowest lumbar spine, and there's pressure down there, and it actually rounds your head a little bit forward. And that's when people use the back of a chair to kind of slump a little bit to get support. When you sit with your hips higher than your knees, you no longer need any back support.
I got to talk to you about this. Because I have been sitting in bar stools my entire career because I'm a public speaker. And so I've stood on stage 5,000 times, and a chair on stage does not work. You got to have a bar stool. So when I sit in a bar stool, my knees naturally drop to where I can connect my feet. So every time I'm sitting, I'm usually being complimented on my posture because I'm doing exactly what you said. My hips are higher than my knees, and I never knew that until this moment. So thank you for that. I'm so glad for that discovery. I plan on teaching every one of my coaching students, hey, when you're doing this, make sure you sit with your knees below your hips. That is such a great bit of advice. Yeah. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I sit, what I'm sitting on right now, I'm sitting on a stool. What's interesting about the stool is a verti-lift. So it's a lever that goes up higher, so I can adapt it to make sure that I'm at the most comfortable place for me. And you know your spine's at rest when you don't have to use any muscles. If you have to, here's what do they call it? An axiom. If you have to use muscles to sit up straight, you're not sitting correctly. So when you sit, if you're sitting with your hips higher than your knees, your lower spine will naturally arc. It'll hold your torso up, and your whole upper body will totally rest.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So that's step one. That's step one. Okay. Let's go to step 2. So what I'm really telling you about is sitting, sleeping, and standing postures, because that's what we do with our physical bodies. We sleep, we stand, and we sit primarily. And we do things, we ride bikes, and, we go into boats, and, who knows what else that we do. But primarily where we spend our time. So I have a question to throw out. It's really rhetorical. So for anybody who's listening, do you know how accurately to determine your correct pillow height?
Man, I'm going to try and answer this while anybody else tries in the chat. So I would assume that my pillow height would keep my head in a straight position. So I would want my pillow height. Say that again.
Well, that's pretty close, but it's not quite right. So you never use a pillow to determine correct pillow thickness. You have to use towels So when you fold towels, so let me back up a second. If you sleep on your back and you sleep on your side, you cannot use the same thickness of what your head is on. You need two different pillow stations. When you're on your back, all you want to do is get your head out of extension and put it into neutral, which is anywhere from like 3 to 6 folds of a towel. And here's the real key to know exactly when you have the correct thickness. Two things happen. Your eyes will naturally close and your brain will shut off. So you'll go out of that sympathetic mode of fight or flight where your mind is busy, your brain will quiet down, and you'll just go into rest. Those are the two distinctions that you can make when you have found the exact pillow height for yourself when you're ready to go to sleep. That's on your back, is just to get out of extension. When you're on your side, many people put their arm underneath their head. Why are they doing that? Because they're trying to lift up the pillow because it's not high enough. So again, what you want to do is put a little piece of paper on your nightstand if you have one and count how many towel folds you're using. So it could be 16, 18, 20 towel folds, depending on what the thickness is between your shoulder and the side of your head. I like to take it. So it's actually like 1 degree. So my head is not just neutral, but 1 degree or so, or 2 degrees away from where the bed is. So your head is slightly, ever so slightly elevated. If any of you have ever fallen asleep on your couch where your head is higher than, your shoulders, you sleep deep and it's the best nap in the world. But you don't want to have it too extended because you don't want to stretch out one side and contract the other side. And again, the way that you'll know when you have the correct pillow thickness, or I say use the towels first. And if you like your pillow, find the amount of towels that you need underneath, put your pillow on top, because you're almost always going to add thickness to the height that you need sleeping on your side. And once you find it and it's correct, you will lie down, your eyes will naturally close, your brain will get quiet, and you'll fall asleep very quickly.
That's amazing. I doubt that people were anticipating getting on this webinar and they were going to learn how to sleep better by using towels.
Yeah.
But you just brought us some pretty good knowledge. So tell me, when it's laying on my back versus laying on my side, laying on my back, what was the cue? How much? What do I want to do?
Say that again, lying on your back.
So lying on my back, the cue is how many towel folds, or what am I trying to get my head to do?
You want to get out of extension and just have your head in neutral. So hold your head up straight. And then if you notice when your head goes onto the mattress, it slightly extends backward. Yeah. All you want to do is bring it up slightly so you'll feel this neutral position. And again, you'll know when you're in neutral when you put 3, 4, or 5 towel folds underneath your head, and all of a sudden your body just kind of sinks in, your eyes start to close, and your brain gets quiet.
I'm excited to try this tonight. And then when I'm on my side, what's the rule on that? Same thing?
So the rule on the side is, now again, I wish that I could demonstrate it, but I'll just explain as best as I can. So when you're lying on your side, you want to bring your arm, obviously it's going to be in front of your body. You do not want your head leaning toward the mattress. You want your head 1 degree away from the mattress, horizontal point. So it's actually up just a teeny bit. And for many people, you're looking at 5, 6, or 7 inches. I have never found a pillow that holds support at that level. I sleep on a couch bolster is what I use for a pillow because it's just the right thing for me to rest my head on.
So it seems very personal.
Well, it's very personal because also if you sleep on different mattresses and the firmness of a mattress will change pillow thickness. So in hotels, I use towels and I have to figure out what the pillow thickness is for me to go to sleep. It's much easier to do it on your back because you only need a few towelfuls. It often can take a few days to accurately assess what you need sleeping on your side. And so try it. For everybody who's out there,
I'm going to try it. Now, I feel like you said there were 3 steps. So you did the sitting posture. Now we did the sleeping posture. I felt like there was a third one.
Yeah, the third one is standing.
So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so standing. So one of the most comfortable and poor shoes for posture are Birkenstocks because they have a negative heel. Now, I'm going to say something also that's a bit controversial. A lot of people like to wear orthotics, which holds up your arch. In my world, in the world of, and I'll explain it from the world of chiropractic that I do, I am not into using arch supports at all. You want your heel to be slightly elevated because it's like sitting. If your heel is like slightly elevated, it's like when you're sitting with your hips slightly elevated. If your heels are slightly elevated, that will also arch your lower spine. And it will actually support your feet in a better way. So I put a little bit of a heel chip inside of my shoes, and it's very thin. It's probably a 1/16 of an inch. And it slightly raises me, and you know when it's right because you just feel more peace. And when people put in arch support, so here's something to think about. If you think about an arch like in a building, I ask my patients the question, where does the strength of the arch come from? Does it come from above, down, or below, up? And the answer is the strength of the arch of a building is always from above down. So the pressure on the building, the rocks would splay out a little bit, just like the foot arch. The bones of your arch will splay out a little bit to find their maximum strength. If you put an arch support underneath your feet, it's going to actually throw your body out to the side, and it's going to destabilize you.
Wow.
So I'm not into arch supports. And when I get shoes or sneakers that have arches in it, I take it out and I put something flat inside.
Interesting. So chiropractic has been a major part of your study, your modalities. I know you transitioned, and I talked a little bit earlier about how much hydration impacts us in different areas of our body, and I want to see if we can start angling in that direction a little bit. So
right now, here's a great point. So when we sleep, you notice. Have you ever noticed someone that's gotten shorter? Like all of a sudden,
my grandmother.
Yeah, the 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches shorter. So I don't know if anybody can see it, but in the back left-hand corner of my office, I have one of those measuring things that measure people to find out how tall they are. And people are blown away when they're 3 inches shorter. Here's something we all need to understand. When we sleep, the spinal discs, which are like 99% water, is a term. They imbibe water. It's called imbibition. So when we sleep, they take water out from our body and they fill up our discs because the spinal discs are shock absorbers. And for all of the just walking or jumping or bouncing or every physical thing we've done with our life from childhood on up, we need those shock absorbers between the vertebrae. Because also between the vertebrae are the spinal nerves that go to every part of your body. That's the electrical wiring system of the human body. And so the discs are so important to have enough water. Dehydration is the number one cause of pain in the human body. That's a really important thing for people to know. So the first thing anybody who's in pain...
Again, though, because dehydration being the number one pain in the human body is hard for me to...
Dehydration is the number one cause of pain. It's the number one cause of pain in the human body. Dehydration is the number one cause of pain in the human body.
Yeah, can you explain that for me?
Yeah, so when you're dehydrated, so your brain needs water to communicate to other parts of your brain. Water carries nutrients to your brain. You can, if you don't have enough water in your brain, you can have short-term memory loss. You can have problems trying to figure out math, calculations. And so water, because water is the solvent, think of the V in it, and that's what holds everything else. So water holds our nutrients. The cells of our body are in a fluid substance, which is water. We need water when we use enzymes, whether it's metabolic enzymes or digestive enzymes. Most everybody, when they wonder about enzymes, I talk about Drano. So if your drain in your shower is blocked, you go to Home Depot or somewhere and they give you Drano, and it breaks up all the stuff that's in your drain. Those are enzymes. Enzymes are the only nutrient that does work in the human body, and enzymes require water. So it is essential. It's just essential for metabolic function, for digestive function, to have really good water for our bodies. That's why your hydrogen water system is so good. Hydrogen is the smallest molecule. So it's really important to get water into small places. That's really what we need.
Huh.
We need body. We need water. And, think about climate change for a second. I wasn't planning on going there, but we're sweating because it's so hot more than we think. And water is evaporating out of our body. So water is something that we need to constantly replenish. It is not something, you can't drink 16 ounces of water or 20 ounces first thing in the morning and think you're necessarily done for the day.
Yeah. What would your protocol be if you were prescribing water to a client? What's a good, plan for drinking enough water?
All right. So now I'm going to take everyone who's listening to another place for how I find out what's true and what's not true. So I use something called muscle testing or kinesiology to find out how much water people need to drink. What muscle testing does, we use a muscle to, and it's a procedure that I do. And what muscle testing does is it actually finds out what is true or not true about a body. And so I do it, extending an arm out, and I put the other arm on someone's shoulder, and I just say a binary yes or no question. Simple person could say, I'm drinking enough water each day. And if it's true statement, their arm will stay strong. If it's not a true statement, the arm will come down a little bit or a lot. Okay. But the lock of the muscle integrity will not be there. It's not a muscle challenge. It's just muscle. It's just finding if there's a muscle lock or not. I do everything in my practice to find out what's true, to find out what someone needs. It's all done through this muscle testing format. Why is another way to look at muscle testing. Muscle testing reveals what is in existence currently right now, or what has been in existence. If something does not exist, you will never test strong for it. So if you need something, like I'll ask people, I may say to them, I have enough vitamin C in my body. Yet it's a yes or no question. I'm deficient in minerals, yes or no. So I could do it with nutrients, but I do it with a lot of other things that I'll get into when I get into the NIS system. So I can muscle test and find out, a person would say, I need 64 ounces of water a day. It's either true or not true. I need more than 64 ounces a day. The ideal amount of water for me to drink is 72 ounces, yes or no. The only question I've learned that you can ask through muscle testing is a binary yes or no question. And if you really want to know how this works, really, there's a wonderful book that will change your life. It's the second most profound book I have ever read in my life. It's called Power vs. Force. It's written by Dr. David Hawkins, MD, PhD. Last name is spelled Hawkins. His body of work is on the website VeritasPub, VeritasPub.com, or you can get everything through Amazon. But his work has transformed my practice, my life, my understanding of myself and life. And he did a 20-year research project on muscle testing using he did over 250,000 individual testings to confirm a lot of things. And his book, Power vs. Force, has about 40 to 50 pages explaining what he discovered through that process. And if you want science, he was an MD, PhD. He had the largest psychiatric practice in the United States when he was practicing. His work is a lot about consciousness. He's written, the most incredible book on mental health that I've ever read is called Letting Go, that he also wrote. And he wrote The Map of Consciousness, The Eye of the I. I have read all of these books, and it has profoundly given me such joy in life because it's raised my understanding. It has shaped me and has given me so much more depth to how I can help people in my life that I'm just grateful. I'm deeply grateful for what I've learned through his body of work.
Well, it's a very powerful understanding you have. And, one of the great things and positions that I put myself in when I do a training like this is to interview people that know things that I don't, and that know things that I've not even researched or thought of. And muscle testing, something you and I talked about a little bit yesterday. I'd heard about it, but now you've given me an opportunity to go do a discovery because, quite frankly, I've never really looked at this as a modality that is part of my understanding because I haven't taken time. So right. I appreciate that you've taken time, and I appreciate that you've got the understanding and the usefulness of actually putting it into your practice and sharing from those experiences. So that's the part that I appreciate the most is you're teaching us from the experiences you've had in your own practice. I want to touch on NIS.
Okay.
Because I really, for me, neuroscience has been a very important subject because I coach public speaking and I coach the persuasion and influence, and so I understand the malleability of a human brain. And because I know it so well and I understand how much it can change and how much influence outside forces have and internal forces with nutrients and different things that affect our brain. It's always been a study of mine that I care deeply about. But NIS and using it for healing, it was a new thing as I was kind of reading it on your website. So can you explain to me what is NIS and, how is it useful for us?
Okay. So NIS stands for the Neurological Integration System. It was originally developed by Dr. Alan Phillips, a medical doctor out of New Zealand. He's been teaching it and working with the brain for 38 years now. I believe it's 38 years that he's been teaching this brain work. And what the brain work has to do is realizing that the brain is in control as long as it has access to the correct signals. So the work that I do is about signaling in the brain. So let me give an example of something. So if your body is not working well, say that your stomach is really hurting you. If you go to the medical world, they're going to want to go treat your stomach because medical science is about treating the symptoms. In the world of NIS, we're looking at where is there a disturbance in the signaling in the brain such that the brain cannot comprehend what's going on in the stomach and then find its own way to heal it through the mastery of our internal environment. So we've become signaling specialists because we've learned how to test every part of the brain to every other part of the brain and every part of the brain to the organs and glands of the body. So when it comes to like NIS, I'm going to give an example of some work that Dr. Phillips figured out. One thing. So if I take my finger, say you're looking at me, and I take my finger, and I just cross it across the midline of your face, So it's making you go from using your right brain to your left brain. And then I muscle test you. Some people go weak. So that's the signal that there's some disturbance that's going on inside of your brain that's causing your brain to not be able to comprehend the environment outside of itself because it can't make the switch. And the part of the brain that's in the middle between the hemispheres is called the corpus callosum. So if a person muscle tests weak, we have a protocol, which is a series of signals of points that we touch on the body. And then the correction is where the gold is. Every correction is the same ultimately, in that we're tapping on a part of the brain called the post-central gyrus. The letters are PCG. It's the post-central gyrus. And the post-central gyrus is 2 inches above the ears. And you know when women sometimes they wear this little hat band thing to hold their hair back? Often it's right above their ears. And if you can see me right now, this is where it is. And so there is a part of the brain, and it's the integration of all sensory motor information coming into the brain. That's where the brain says, I got it. Now I know what you're talking about. So when you connect signals, and I personally have developed over 3,000 protocols. And I'm going to give you an example of something that I developed that I think is really, really important for people to understand. So many people have had concussions. I've actually discovered that you can induce an internal concussive wave if you're negative enough in your head. And if you get so stewed up emotionally, you can create enough of a wave that you can put a concussive force through your brain. Notwithstanding that one, when people get into car accidents and they bang their head or they fall on the ground and they get a physical concussion, one of the things that happens, it interferes with the brain's ability to process light. For instance, they may not be able to, and I muscle test, is it red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, or violet? Remember, all those colors are frequencies. They're just vibrations. Every substance in nature has its own vibratory frequency. So I went out and I studied with some physicists so I could really start to own that concept, how everything ultimately is vibration. So with color, I was blessed to be able to figure out what the brain pathway is for each of those colors. And so how do I know if someone's had a concussion? All I have to do is muscle test them when they look out at the sky, because the sky is full spectrum light. If I muscle test them and they go weak while they're looking at the sky, I know that there's interference in their brain's ability to process the light. At that moment, I don't know which color. So then I need to muscle test. So I could have them go look at the color red or orange or yellow or green, and they'll muscle test weak with one of those colors. And so I happen to know what the pathways are for those colors. And then once I've connected all the dots, I integrate it into their brain. And, for instance, I'm going to, if you'll give me a second, can I pull it up? So I'm not going to pull up color, but I want to do something related to water. So that in and of itself is really important. Let me just add one thing, and I'm going to go to water regarding some of the NIS. So just as plants need light for photosynthesis, and to grow and to develop, humans need the frequencies of light for the health of our organs and our tissues. And because it's not such a physical event that we can see, it's not as easy to know. However, when I find that someone has had a concussion and say they can't process the color red, every time if they can't process the color red, all I have to do is put my hand over their heart and their heart will muscle test weak. Now, I get more specific when I test the heart because NIS has gotten very specific. I know how to test the left atrium and the left ventricle, the right atrium, the right ventricle, and I know how to test all the valves of the heart. So there are people that come to me with heart problems, and I usually can figure out what's wrong. And there are times when the heart, something's off with the heart, there's a protocol that Dr. Phillips figured out, or others that I have figured out, and there are different pathways. And I have to muscle test to find out which pathway does the brain need to now have its coherence so function can be restored. And that's what NIS is. It's all about restoring normal function by identifying where there's a disturbance in the signaling in the brain. So some of the things that I've discovered are how the brain processes water absorption or water utilization or water reabsorption. So our large intestine reabsorbs water. It happens in our kidneys, but when we go to the bathroom, we pull water out, and if every single event that goes on inside of us is a different brain pathway. And so I find people that drink a ton of water, and yet they always keep feeling thirsty. They're not diabetic. And I will test them for one of these to see if they have a problem with water absorption or water assimilation. And then once I correct it, then they muscle test strong. And way more often than not, I mean, this work has been very successful almost all the time. I'm not perfect, but it's really effective, and it clears up disturbances in brain signal. Now, I'm going to say one thing. Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
I was going to say, talk to me about water absorption, and why would somebody not be absorbing water well?
Because there's a problem with the brain signal for what water absorption is. So the 2 points of correction for water absorption are your anterior pituitary gland and your spleen. So you need to touch your anterior pituitary and then put your hand over your spleen, and you'll muscle test weak. And then this is one particular protocol that you have to correct it twice, because there are 2 sets of corrections. And once I do that, then it's easier for the body to absorb water, because it has the signal, it has the pathway, the brain knows what it needs to do. So that's
got it.
You got it?
So if someone wanted to increase their absorption, if they wanted to increase their hydration, what are some of the things that they can do in order to help with that? What are some maybe, I know I'd love to have everybody stop in your office and be like, hey, Dr. Margil, here you go. Help them out. What are some of the things that we can do outside of just drinking more water?
To improve our hydration?
Yeah, to improve our hydration and our water absorption was one of the things you'd mentioned.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. The body. So I need to back up to help you understand that. So in my experience, there's only 4 things that cause a disturbance to the body's ability to function completely well. It's either shock, trauma, anesthesia, or crisis. What does it disturb? It disturbs your brain's recognition of original cell function. So when we begin in life, and the egg and the sperm came together, that spark of life was brilliant enough that it grows to form us. And if we're fortunate and we all come together whole, then our body's working. And then as life goes on, and for most all of us experience stress in either shock, trauma, anesthesia, or crisis. And that disturbs how the brain functions. And so NIS has been brought into this world to help restore this normal cell function and restore the brain to its original blueprint.
This is awesome. And, one of the things that I was hoping we would do is uncover different ways for people to be able to help themselves. And one of the things this reminds me of is the importance of being able to process some of this trauma naturally. And one of the speakers we had a couple of weeks ago was Dr. Mike Van Thielen. And, he was discussing some ways to biohack our body, to biohack our life. And he was talking about breathing through your nose. Just as simple as that is, breathing through your nose is more effective than breathing through your mouth.
Correct.
And, so as we take these small ideas, these small little tips, for example, today we learned how to sit better. Today we've learned how to sleep better. Today we've learned what we can do to adjust our shoes or something inside our stance so that we elevate our heels just slightly so that we can even stand better. Each of those things are so basic, but they're things that we can use every single day. And so as I was asking these questions, like how can we improve hydration? How can we improve water absorption? What I'm really looking for is some of those ideas. And what I'm getting is that there is more to it than just having a good chiropractor. There's more to it than just drinking water. There's also a level of almost understanding the human brain in a way where we can process certain areas like trauma, like shock, like crisis, and know how to handle those, which is not as much a drink water situation as it is a understanding of how we can process information better as human beings. So can you get
what water does? Let me say this. Remember that water carries information. So this is why drinking water is so valuable, because water is one of the conduits and water carries information. That's why this guy, Masamoto, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, where he did all this work with water crystals. And if you put different emotions around a crystal of a drop of water, it changes the shape of the crystal. Yeah. So it's really important that us as a vessel, water is without question the most crucial element that we could ever put into our body. There is no question that more than I believe any food, that everything works better with water. You need air because you won't stay around to drink water if you're not breathing enough air. However, you need the water for everything in your body to work. And so if you want your spine, so I'm gonna dance a little bit. So if you want your spine to be well, so you can move and jump and swim or just be physical and have a body that lasts into your 60s, 70s, and 80s, you need a pliability. So there needs to be enough moisture and lubrication that's inside of your joints. So you really need water for the lubrication of your joints. You need water for digestion. You need water for the removal of waste, in your body. And so if you put on a mantle inside of your mind that, your commitment is that the best I'm going to do to start with my body is that I'm just going to feed it water, you're off to an incredibly wonderful start. Yeah. And I want to add something about chiropractic in here as well, because many of you who are listening have probably been to chiropractors. And a chiropractor that I know made a really big discovery a number of years ago, and it's still not taught in a lot of schools, and it's not taught in the profession. When you go to a chiropractor for your thoracic and lumbar spine, you only want to have bones move backwards. You never want to lay down on a table where they're pushing on your spine, pushing bones forward. Listen to my language right now. When you're adjusting the spine, the first thing, or when you're getting a treatment, you want your doctor to be aware of which bones of the body have moved out of place in a direction that the body does not have the ability to self-correct. It's very important. Which bones of the body have moved out of place in a direction that the body does not have the ability to self-correct. And in the thoracic and the lumbar spine, which is the mid-back and the lower back, the only direction of misalignment that the body cannot self-correct are bones that shift forward. So what happens to people when you see an older person walking for the most part? They're slouching forward. You never see anyone leaning backward, like extending backward as they get older. They're slouching forward. Bones have shifted forward. And because there are no muscles in our back that pull straight backward, there is no way for our body on its own to correct those misalignments. So the body will twist to try to keep us upright. What hurts are the twists, but what needs to be corrected are the bones that have shifted forward. And so I practiced for 15 years not knowing this. And then when I finally got exposed to it, I changed my practice actually in 24 hours. And so now when I have to treat like upper part of someone's back, I do it standing. If it's the lower part of the back, I do it seated, where I move everything backward. And it's huge to find someone. And for people who are listening, it's not my website. It's developed. It's abc.com is the website. And the people
Let's
who
try
do
that
it
one more time. I feel like you cut out. Can you try that website one more time?
Yeah, it's the letters A, B, C, miracles, miracles.com. That's
Thank
the
you.
website.
Threw that in the chat box.
You didn't spell it right. Did you spell it MIRAC? Yeah, okay, it's correct. Now, yeah, I just wanted to check the spelling, because if you don't have the right spelling on a website, you don't go there.
Yeah, you're right.
You won't see my name on the practitioner list. I've done it for many years. I know how to do it. I don't want to have to pay him a lot of money to stay on his website. My practice is fine, so you won't see my name on it. My website is margilhealing.com. If anybody wants to go and see what I'm up to. But I found that is huge, because when you move bones correctly in your back and the body is standing upright, then your disc can rehydrate when you're lying in bed at night, so you're not going to shrink, and you're going to keep enough water inside of your spinal disc. That protects your nerves. I'm drinking a little water. One sec.
Making me so thirsty talking about all this water today.
Yeah, no, I brought some water down with me, so I love having my, my water system. It's interesting. I'm just thinking about something else right now, but that's the point of, of why water is important. Correct spinal care is important. And for another thing for people, just to share about my practice, almost every single patient that I've had in the last 10 years has had sprained ankles, and 2/3 of them don't even know it. Most people have sprained their ankles in their life. The feet contain 26 bones each, and it's really hard to stabilize a body without correcting sprained ankles. I have helped so many people because I know how to fix their feet. So
interesting. I'm wishing I was right near you so I could come and have you work on everything right now. You really got me thinking. What I'd love to do is this, because we're running out of time, and I want to make sure that we kind of move into hydrogen for a moment and its effect on the brain. One of the promises we had in coming into this is we were going to talk about some of that cognitive function and how hydrogen impacts that. Can you talk to me a little bit about hydrogen that you understand and how it impacts the brain? I do have a couple of studies that we may go to, but I'd love to just, you had some thoughts on that when we were talking yesterday. What were some of your thoughts on hydrogen? And really, why did you decide to buy hydrogen products and start using them?
Okay, so here's why I decided to buy a unit. I had a water filter, and I'm not going to name the name, since 1987. Consumer Reports put it really high quality water filter, and it took out all of the chemicals and chlorine based stuff and all the derivatives of combinations of things that happen with chlorine, and it took out every rated toxic chemical. But what it didn't take out was heavy metals, and it didn't take out minerals. And one of the things that I learned was that my wife and I both did a hair tissue mineral analysis test called HTMA, and that we had copper toxicity. I had some mercury toxicity, a number of things. And our water filter didn't address it at all. And when you look at something like a hydrogen water system, because hydrogen is number one, it's the most abundant element in the universe. If you look at deductive reasoning and you think about that statement, it's massive, because if something is the most abundant, God put it there for a reason. It needs to be here. It's the smallest element. So because it's the smallest element, and hydrogen is part of what forms a water molecule, that we can't survive without it. And hydrogen is one of the most important antioxidants that we have. So what is oxidation? It's damage to cell membranes. A cell membrane is made of phosphorus and fat. And the cell membrane is protecting essentially what's going on inside of the cell. But using oxygen, oxygen is a two-legged thing. We need it to survive, but also when it breaks down, it kind of rusts, and it can create free radicals. But it can also damage proteins and lipids, and it can create these unstable molecules, which are called free radicals. Now, and so we really need hydrogen and this hydrogen water, because it protects us from this stuff. One of the things about well care is you have to do stuff pretty regularly to take care of yourself. You can't do it once and think, okay, I did it. Now I can just, not take care of myself. It's really important to, in the process of living, that we're constantly re-upping how it is that we take care of ourselves, so we can live a longer life if we choose to, and it's a quality of life that we're looking for. Now, not all oxidation reactions are bad, actually. In cellular breathing, glucose is oxidized, is broken down by oxygen. Oxygen breaks down things from the air that we breathe, and it produces carbon dioxide, produces water, and it actually energy, which fuels our body. So oxidation is something, it's another one of those processes that is really good for us, but if it gets out of control, then it's not healthy for us. The hydrogen water system is really good for us because it's giving us antioxidants. So in my opinion, I always start my day drinking water. Now, it varies how much. Sometimes I put lemon in it. Sometimes I put nothing in it. Sometimes I may put a little apple cider vinegar. Most of the time I do nothing, because I don't do anything all the time, just straight. I'm not a machine. So I personally like to vary everything that I do. I don't take supplements forever. I make sure that I just vary them. We're not, like I said, we're not a machine, and we need to vary that kind of stuff. So that's why I like this. Echo water system, because it's giving something for me that can improve the quality of my life every single day.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much. And I'm going to take a moment here to share our offer for today and walk you through what the discount looks like. And while I do that, any questions that you have, feel free to throw them in the chat box, and I'll come right back to Dr. Margil here in just a moment. But really, we talk about two different areas when we're on this call. We're talking about education. How can we educate ourselves to be more understanding of what is available to us that we can utilize that's going to help us be healthier. So we talk about that, but we also need to go, okay, it's nice to know it, but how can we actually implement? And when we're talking about implementation, there's two different things we focus on here in our system at Echo. The first is cleaning our water. We know Dr. Margil mentioned heavy metals. He mentioned those chemicals and pharmaceuticals in the water and PFAs and forever chemicals. We just have these these issues with our water system, that we can take advantage of some of the new technologies and the new systems available, like reverse osmosis and other different systems that can really clean out the water. The second step that we talk about is enhancing our water. And enhancing our water here at Echo means adding hydrogen, the smallest molecule, the most abundant molecule, the molecule that can get anywhere and go anywhere inside our body. And it's really the manager, because it can come and manage processes in a better way. It can help us. It can help us create more energy in our mitochondria. It can help us have better cognitive function through producing gastric ghrelin inside our stomach and in our gut that triggers, areas of our brain. This brain-gut connection is a real thing, and hydrogen helps stimulate that. So it's not like hydrogen is moving directly to our brain cells and having that effect. It's helping assist other systems inside the body, these ancient systems that have been with us from the very beginning. So in those two steps, we talk about cleaning water. We can filtrate the faucet. There's so many ways to do that, from fiber filtration to activated carbon to reverse osmosis, but having some sort of filtration system. If at the very least you go down to the grocery store and you buy a Brita filter, and you've at least got a Brita filter with some of that activated carbon, then at the very least you're doing something and taking that step. Now you can invest $50,000 in personal home filtration systems and professional systems. And so whatever your ability is to invest in your great health, think of water as one of those opportunities to invest in yourself. Now, we talk about the second thing where we're enhancing the water. That second step, we've got all these, different types of water. Hydrogen water is the water that we're discussing today that has this additional quality. It's created through electrolysis. And the bottom line is when we get more hydrogen into our system, our systems can function at a better rate, because hydrogen benefits, each system inside our body. So today we've got a couple of different devices that we're going to be able to, get into your hands for a significant discount. The first is called the Echo Go Plus. Now, the Echo Go Plus retails for $249. When people balk at that price, I go, listen, you can go buy a hydrogen product for $100 on Amazon if you want to go that route. And what you're going to end up with is not 15 years of an organization that has built products, but some fly-by-night manufacturing that was able to get it done for that cheap. This is a system. Okay, and so when we talk about investing, we're investing in ourselves. And this Echo Go Plus system is it produces the highest amount, parts per million, of hydrogen in the water, because it is a concentrated. So as you see the bubbles going up right here, when that lid goes on, it's concentrated. And so it's able to pack in, when you run the cycle twice, up to 4.5 parts per million of H2 gas are concentrated. Now, the therapeutic level is 0.5 parts per million. So very, very high. You run the cycle once and it's 2.3, but it is the highest hydrogen process that we actually have. The highest producer of hydrogen of all the systems. The challenge is you got to wait 5 minutes for it to go. So all the flow through systems are going to be at 1.5 parts per million and higher, with the Echo Ultimate producing the highest of up to 1.8 parts per million. But when you look at that and you say, okay, putting hydrogen into my system, this is a product to take on the go. If you want to have something for your home, you're going to want to have additional filtration, because we want to use filtered water inside the Go Plus. So the Echo filtration system is filtration that works, NSF certified. It removes, all of the heavy metals, pesticides, or I should say 90% plus of heavy metals, pesticides, chlorine, chloramines, bacteria, PFEs, these things, glyphosate, for example, which next week we're going to be doing a very special training on glyphosate specifically, where we're going to talk about that. But this is filtration that works and has been tested. We are the only organization that has an IHSA, that meets the IHSA standard, and is, on all of our devices. So each one of our devices has been certified by the IHSA, so you can rest easy in knowing that these are great products. And you can learn more about hydrogen at hydrogenstudies.com. I'm not going to go through all the studies today, but there's over 1,200 studies that you can go and look for to see how hydrogen has been helpful for people. And we have so many different clients and celebrities and doctors, just like Dr. Margil, who are affiliates, users, excited about having it. So we would love to help you get started with an Echo system today, where we can get you a couple of Echo Go Pluses absolutely free. So here's what the offer is. I'm going to put it out right now. So if you just jump on, you just jump on the offer that I just published. When you go to that cart right there, it will add an Echo Ultimate machine. Okay, the Echo Ultimate machine, which is our flagship machine. And when you buy an Echo Ultimate machine, you get 2 Echo Go Pluses for free. So that's the offer. If you jump on that link that I just sent you, that link will show up and you'll see that you can get 2 of these Echo Go Pluses for free when you buy an Ultimate system. So really cool offer that they've come across or that they presented for you today. So I want to jump to question and answer if we have any. I'm looking over in the chat box. I don't see a lot of Q&A. So it sounds like you were able to answer all the questions, Dr. Margil. That's phenomenal. I never have had someone be able to answer everyone's questions like that. So you were just so thorough, and I appreciated everything you had to share today. So if we could kind of go out with a little bit of just ideas or tips from you on how people can be healthier with some of the modalities that you've learned. And what we can do to learn more about about what you do. I would love to kind of finish with that today.
Yeah. So, some of the inspirations for me is, the books that I read and the people that I think are taking life really into a wellness space that's, just takes the quality of life higher. So reading any of Hawkins' books, I promise you, will take your understanding of your life and what you've gone through and where you can go, both emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It'll take you to another place. And then Neurolink Global, NEUROLINK Global.com is the international website of the neurological integration system. I am on that. I'm a master's level trained, and I didn't have enough chance to speak as much about the work that I've created, but there are practitioners around the country depending on, and it's just a way to get your brain balanced. And even if you've had no major events, why not take the time to do some extra wellness care? Just like you can drink water out of a tap, or you can buy a really good water system, and you're taking your level up a whole bunch of notches. Some of the people that I've trained with, I want to live an inspired life. And to live an inspired life, I need to be around inspired people, and I need to inspire myself. And so I do it through reading, I do exercise. And if you want to hydrate better, you need to exercise, because it's something about muscles that's really important. A muscle fiber contracts for its strength. Any muscle, if you're under stress, your muscles are partially contracted, and that is a weaker muscle. And when your muscle is partially contracted, it's creating a bigger demand on your body because it's a forced contraction. When your body is relaxed, you're using up the least amount of your nutrient stores. If you're under stress, go for a walk, exercise, use the power of your body just to move. And that's going to help you actually get thirstier. And it's going to create a demand inside of your body to want more water. And so, I'm a big proponent of finding the exercise you love, because the only kind of exercise we ever do is what we like. There is no right exercise. The only right exercise is the one that you're willing to do. So people ask me, what should I do? It's like, I always turn it back around. What do you like to do? What inspires you? What moves you? I mean, do you want to swim? Do you like to go for bike rides? Do you want to go climb mountains and see what you can see from when you get up there? It's everyone's choice, and find meaning in what you do. Because one of the most important things as you age is that we all want to find meaning in life. And when you do that, you can pass it on. When your mind is busy, one more thing, and I just kind of will wrap it with one more thing. One of the things that I've really learned is over the years, when my mind got quiet, and I could really listen, then I could tune into some of the, if you will, higher thoughts that would come in so that I could teach, learn, and express. And when I had all this looping stuff and I'm going over stuff inside of my head, and when you're not free inside, then you can't receive, because that's when you're projecting. Book Letting Go by Hawkins will teach you how to quiet your mind. One of the most important things. In my work, in my brain work, I have figured out how the brain processes consciousness, mind, thought, existence, being in the presence of the present. Each one of those are independent frequencies that I can run the program. And I have done some of those on people that people are so scattered, and I do that. And all of a sudden they get still, and then tears come down their eyes, because for the first time that they can remember, they're living in the present moment. Because there is no past. If you think there's a past, all you're doing is bringing some experience you had into the present, and so you're just reliving something right now. But so there's no actual past. And in my opinion, but that's an opinion.
Well, I love your opinion. I love that you have such an understanding of how to maximize joy in your life. And you've mentioned that now multiple times. You mentioned it today. You mentioned it on our call yesterday, and how that is really what your goal is for yourself and for others, is to help maximize that joy and live life in its fullest. Going through this modality, muscle testing, all of it, this is new information to me. And like I said, I just appreciate how much devotion you've put into working towards an understanding that you can share with us, because I don't have the time to go and study stuff for 30 and 40 years to learn what you've learned. So for you to be willing to share it with us here today, I feel truly humbled, very grateful. I have so many takeaways. Can't wait to go upstairs and tell my wife we need new pillows and we've got to get that stuff done. But, I definitely, I feel extremely grateful for the opportunity to have spent my time with you today. So thank you for being with us, Dr. Margil, and definitely look forward to having you on in the future.
I appreciate it. Thanks. And for everybody who's listening, thanks so much. Have a wonderful rest of your summer. And you have my website. If you ever want to reach out, and if you have any real questions that you want to ask, feel free, and I'll get back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So one last reminder as we're going out here today to click on that product offer. I also added it into the chat box. When you go there, you're getting an Echo Go, or you're getting an Echo Ultimate. That is our flagship machine. It is top of the line, produces 4 types of water: filtered water, hydrogen water, alkaline water, acid water. Great uses for each of them, for, cleaning our home as a disinfectant, to, feeding our plants, a specific type of water to help ensure their growth, to, having filtered water that we would want to use for our coffee or our tea or any of those other things, and the food that we cook, along with hydrogen water to drink each day. So Echo Ultimate's producing all 4 of those. The Echo Go Plus, fantastic to take with you. You're getting 2 Echo Go Pluses when you buy an Ultimate today. So I wanted to remind you to make sure and follow through with that product offer. And then, as always, jump on to these trainings Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Next week, we're going to be talking about glyphosate and the danger of glyphosate, but also what we can do to prevent its impact inside our own home. And so we're going to have some great ideas from Dr. Michael Joseph. So we'll see you next week on the next training that we have. Thank you once again, Dr. Margil. We'll see everybody.
You're welcome, Robbie. Thanks so much.